for women, and what a lineup we have. Some international players, and once they get onto this ice, they are going to blitz us with this action. Perfect conditions here for Nordic skiing. This is what you want. You want a nice powdery snow on the surface, and the girls, I tell you, are going to enjoy themselves. There's a look at the team's lineup. We're going to be starting off with Himachal. So Anjali and Urlisha, followed by ITBP, a huge contingent: Tarang, Anjana, Kiran, Kushi, Pooja and Sapna. That's not all. We have a lot more coming up. Beautiful, stunning views in the background. So a lineup of 16. You will then have ITBP Selma. Watch out for her. She's a very strong skier. CRPF's Hiral as well. Sejal Patel, Renu Danu, Kajal, Bhavani, of course, is going to be the favorite for this event, followed by Geeta and Jyotika. Watch out for Bhavani from Karnataka. ITBP's Prince Kumari, Ragini, Nazira and Bhavna. Let's take a look at the route. So if you're sitting at home and wondering how they're going to figure out their way through the white ice, well, there are going to be markers through and through. And once they start from the starting point, they weave their way up a slope and crossing the church. And beyond the church, there's a bit of a slope that helps them come down. But otherwise, a demanding course when it comes to Nordic skiing. That's a view of the starting point. The officials getting things in order. We have this beautiful flaky snow drifting in here at the golf course. The stunning city and town of Gulmarg. Crown jewel perhaps in Kashmir. Take a look at the lineup. These beautiful drone shots giving you a view of this course. And that's the starting point. I was talking about how the skiers make their way up. Slowly and steadily, they will be climbing through and then taking that left turn that we've seen on the map. Slight slope there. But once again, working the incline all the way to the church. A couple of S-bends for them to navigate. And then a slight downward slope. Beautiful. These pictures brought to you perfectly on the Doordarshan network. I hope you're enjoying yourself. And if because of these pictures you're thinking of traveling to Gulmarg, it's absolutely spectacular. This weekend, Gulmarg is going to be as close to heaven as possible. So as we wait for the players to line up, it's pouring down these beautiful flakes. And some practices happening nearby. These are the slalom events. Very different skis that are on display there. That you look at those skis, a lot more broader and of course lifted up in front. And you can see these Nordic skiers getting onto the start point. Those guys will be using very different skis.
सर ये टूरिस्ट लोग और बच्चे लोग खेल रहे हैं.
So the ski is very different, an opportunity for you to kind of gauge the difference that we have at different kind of skates. So skiing is not a one brush that puts everything into one color. The technicality of it is so different. I was having some wonderful conversations yesterday with the gold medalist Bhavani from Karnataka, and we were talking about how this is a very expensive sport, and she was so happy that finally, of course, she was thanking the government, she was thanking the army, and then the support that she's now slowly and steadily, after competing in the Asian Games and in the World Cup, getting support from the private sector as well. So it's a great news and a great hope for Indian skiing.
दो स्पेलिंग गलत है यार मेरा नेक्स्ट टाइम
Beautiful and picturesque, the golf course. Of course, winter brings out a different charm in Gulmarg altogether. But in the summer as well, one of the best places to play golf, surrounded by these chinar trees and the beauty of these slopes. Just a perfect location for you to tee off. And nearby, you have the youngsters around getting their photo shots in those Instagram pictures sorted. And of course, enjoying the skis the best to their ability. But here it's all about the professionals representing India at various forums, representing their states here at Khelo India. The lineup almost falling in place. So we have a good lineup, like we were talking in the initial moments, but 20 skiers. And the beauty of Nordic skiing is you don't have a simultaneous release. You have a release that takes place one by one. And then you have the clocks and the German equipment that captures the time as you cross the finish line. Then there is a tabulation that takes place. Of course, once upon a time, it used to be a manual tabulation. And they used to compare the times. But in this day and age, it's fairly electronic, so you get a quick understanding of the results. Perhaps takes a minute or two for you to figure out. Beautifully lighting up there. You can see the course as well, and you can see the skiers just ensuring that their big numbers are correct with the technical officials. And then they form that line, the starting line. Watch out for that blue jacket that you can see on your screens. It's probably Bhavani. I can't quite make out from this distance. The drone, of course, giving us these beautiful pictures here as the snow beats down here at the golf course in Gulmarg. The Khelo India Winter Games, of course, this 2025 edition, scheduled from the 9th to 12th, and we are in day 2 action. This is, of course, the second leg of these games after the first leg that was held in Ladakh, and we had some beautiful competitions there. I had the good fortune of commentating on the finals of the ice hockey when ITBP took on the Indian Army. And we had about 20,000 people packed into the stadium. Extremely popular, the ice skating sport, and of course skiing across Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal. And that is the beauty of the country that we live in. India, of course, has such amazing diversity. While you can have the winter games here in Kashmir, you can have the summer games anywhere across the rest of the country. Of course, this Gulmarg leg featuring 4 major events. On your screens, the Nordic skiing setup. And we also have the alpine skiing that's taking place just about phase one. We have a beautiful gondola cable car ride that we take, and then we head on to that location. And alpine skiing in action yesterday drew some huge crowds. In fact, in the hotel that we guys were living in as well, we had so many guests coming up to us and asking us about the Khelo India Winter Games and asking us to tell us more about the events. Well, we have ski mountaineering as well, and that's going to be really interesting. Snowboarding. But right now, it's all about Nordic skiing. And Tarang there from ITBP, the 24-year-old, is going to kick off proceedings for us in this 10-kilometer journey. Waiting for the go-ahead. Freezing temperatures here, close to zero. In fact, on the ice, I believe it should be somewhere around -3 to -5. 20 skiers now in competition. You can see number 5 there in the background. Anjana Devi enjoying the beats of Khelo India, the anthem of these wonderful competitions that were started a few years back, a pre-COVID era. And what a vision of Fit India, championed by our own Prime Minister. And since then, it's been a narrative of a sports revolution across the country, flagging off the Nordic 10K for women. First off the blocks, Tarang of ITBP. It's going to be tough going there, needing the edging on those skis to make her way up the hill that we were talking about on that map, that initial slope that needs to make you climb up all the way, and then from there you need to take the level. And that's Anjana Devi of ITBP. Teammates, the 27-year-old, the senior amongst the two. And she's off the blocks now, fighting her way through the falling snow. ITBP's Anjana Devi. And that's the view that she'll be having as well, looking at the back of Tarang. Kiran now. ITBP's Kiran again. And ITBP have a strong contingent in this particular competitions. 9 skiers part of the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. 5 representatives from Himachal Pradesh. We have 1 representative from Ladakh, Nazira Bano. And of course, Karnataka's trailblazing star, Bhavani Tekara Manjula. That's Kusum Rana. Watch out for her as well. She's also a very talented skier, and you can see the style that she's using immediately off the blocks with that striding technique. And I'm pretty sure that she's going to overtake Anjana very soon. Kusum Rana. Pooja Bhatt, again part of that ITBP contingent, the 24-year-old, wearing the bib number 12. And look at that weight transfer beautifully from foot to foot. There's a slight delay with the poles, the first pole and the second pole having a half-second delay, so creating a striding motion. As you go off the blocks, you use a double-handed push, and then once you start dealing with the powder, that's when you need to shift slowly and steadily into the striking, keeping that beautiful V formation there. Off the starting block now, Selma Soreng The 25-year-old already on the podium yesterday. So today is going to be yet another challenge in the 5K race. It was a lot more about speed, but in the 10K, it's also going to be about perseverance. It's going to be about stamina. And that's going to be an interesting battle. Selma Soreng. Now that's number one, Hiral of CRPF. And she had a good race yesterday for the large parts in the 5 kilometer. And in fact, a pressure position, I must say, because she was the first to start off that race. And when you're the first, you clearly know that every time someone is passing you by, that you're falling behind. So it takes an emotional toll as well, being the first to start. But nonetheless, Hiral will be hoping that the 10 kilometer race will be a different story. Sejal Patel. We're moving into the CRPF contingent. We have 4 women skiers from CRPF. Hiral, Patel Sejal, Renu, Kajal Kumar Rai. That's that contingent of 4 from CRPF. So on your screen, Anjana Devi, having found her way beyond the church and then enjoying that time on the slope as she slowly drifts in. And these skiers will really prefer these conditions. Yesterday when they were in the 5 kilometer race, of course, the route was fairly icy. And for Nordic skiing, you don't really want a very icy surface. You want something a little more powdery. And today's conditions with the fresh snow that we've had last night and today morning, it's been a beautiful day for Nordic skiing. Bhavani Tekara Manjula of Karnataka, the girl from Coorg, the golden girl already in these Khelo India Winter Games, having taken the gold medal yesterday in the 5 kilometer race, now competing for silverware in the 10 kilometer competitions. A beautiful view there of the skiers catching up with each other down that slope. And with the noise that the skis make on the ice, as the skier up front, you kind of know that someone's approaching. But you need to remember that 10 kilometers is not about speed. It's about perseverance. It's about stamina. It's about the cardio that you've done, about the miles that you've clocked. And a beautiful view of the map as the 2 skiers battle the conditions. Kusum Rana, followed by Kiran behind her. Tarang of ITBP. There you can see the technique, that uphill climb technique, leveraging the power of your arms, at the same time trying to push through with those legs, cutting into the ice. And while you do all that, you're also trying to create some drift for yourself, some momentum for yourself, that it can help you go through. Just as the snow keeps coming down. Those 2 flag markers, they're very crucial, especially on a day when it's snowing. The moment you go past those on the outside, you have some deductions to deal with. Tarang, who started off proceedings today from ITBP, still up front. Of course, the individual positions of these skiers doesn't really make a difference, because eventually you're competing against the clock. Having started at different times, you are competing against yourself to a large extent. So it's very important to know the course, and that's where again the skiers who have practiced in this course here at Gulmarg will have a huge advantage. Approaching the slope that we talk of, take a breath. You get some time, get those knees parallel, get those calves aligned. Tuck in those skis and just take a breather. you've earned it after that climb all the way from the start past the church, approaching that downhill drift. Selma Soreng and Hiral there on your screens. Beautiful view of the technique that it takes for Nordic skiing, especially downhill. And of course, these skiers are not as fast as those that you see on alpine skiing. The angles itself are not as steep. Pooja Bhatt approaching the peak of the slope. There you can see not tucking herself in too much, which means that she doesn't want to get too much speed and trying to rest as much as possible. Sometimes when you tuck in a lot, it takes a lot out of your thighs, your quadriceps as well. So trying to conserve as much energy as possible. The Nordic skiing is all about blending in with the elements, and we have some of these wild dogs. Also very much part of the serene beauty that is Gulmarg. Right down the slope, then they take that left turn and then slowly once again stride in as they approach the start and finish line to complete one rotation across this particular turf. Now you can see you cross the church and then you get onto that slope, brings you down from that point. It's a nice slope, and then again you kind of make your way at a much slower pace back onto the start finish point. And you need to do multiple rounds, of course. And much better technique here, tucking in those elbows, reducing your cross section. That's what you're trying to do. Hiral of CRPF. Kusum Rana there on your screens of ITPP, and she's a strong skier, and if she has a good day today, she might find herself on the podium for this 10-kilometer Nordic skiing competition. Anjana Devi there in the foreground. Keeping Tarang in her sights as at the top of the hill. One of the best sights when it comes to skiing. This is that segment wherein you try to get in as much drifting as possible while you are striding. It comes soon after the slope. And you're trying to carry as much momentum that you can from the slope into this segment. As you stride through, take this left and you then approach the start and finish line. Approaching very close to the angles where we are at the commentator's box on the right of Anjana Devi. Anjana getting past Tarang and crossing the start-finish line ahead of her. That's a clear marker that you're making progress, because the number of skiers that you can cross is a sure shot calculation that that many positions you have made up. Of course, the rest depends on the time that you clock eventually at the end of 10 kilometers. But you know for sure that if I've crossed 5 people, definitely I'm ahead of 5 people. Kusum Rana, another strong contestant. Sejal there. She had a tough race yesterday in the 5 kilometer. And in the 10 kilometer in much more difficult conditions, at least from in terms of a perspective of the weather. When you talk about the surface, of course, I think this Pauri surface is a much more a better surface for them. So far, the best times being clocked amongst those who have, of course, taken a full lap. We have Kusum Rana leading. But let's wait and see, because we will have Bhavani. And once Bhavani comes in, you'll get a fair idea of where each of these skiers stand. Just waiting for these skiers to complete their first rotation on this circuit. Anjana Devi there, feeling the exhaustion. Just trying to rest as much as possible. You know someone is tired when you have those arms close to your knees. That brief respite on the slope takes you into this segment wherein you need to once again plow your way. It's 10 and 6 completing their first lap. Selma Soreng, yet another strong contender. Will be interesting to see what her time is like. Sapna, of course, somehow managing to keep pace with Selma as well. This is that climbing section that we talk about soon after the finish line. You need to climb up. Testament to that hoarding that you can see at the back. Fit India. That wonderful mantra that has been transformational across this country. A mantra for the youth, a mantra for the youngsters to take to heart. And what a difference it has made. Especially when you get that sporting push right from the top. And then we have 6 completions of the first lap so far. And the lap time looks like 11 and a half minutes as an average. And Kusum still holding pole position. These beautiful pictures being brought to you from the golf course here in Gulmarg. Of course, the Jammu and Kashmir government was gearing up to host this world-class winter sports experience. And these were, of course, planned initially to be held in the last weeks of February. But then we didn't quite have the amount of snow that we required. And then some fresh snowfall that came in about the 2nd or 3rd of March meant that these games were possible. And then today's snow as well, giving us some brilliant conditions, ideal conditions for these games. Hiral there on your screens, just about working her way up the incline. That's a strong testament, a contrast there from what Hiral was experiencing. And the downhill drift that you can enjoy. 2 sides of Nordic skiing. And that's the beauty of Nordic skiing. It involves skiing on flat or fairly gently rolling terrain. And the poles that you use are a lot more different than what you use in alpine. The kind of propulsion that you require in Nordic skiing is also fairly different. Anjana Devi making her way through, and you can get an idea of the incline as well there as Tarang makes her way up, just fighting the conditions, fighting the snow. Just taking a breather on the slope as she works her way down. Oh, what a view! And that's the view that she'll be approaching as well. This beautiful, picturesque hill station. There you can see approaching the tip, and from there, some flat surface. And this is a lovely view of the overall conditions here, of the beauty of this state as well. Gulmarg, this absolutely picture postcard perfect hill station in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, is renowned, of course, for its breathtaking beauty. As Kusumrana, Selma Soreng, and Anjana Devi right now leading proceedings, and close behind, not too far behind, is Bhavani Tekra. And this is going to be interesting on two fronts because Bhavani is also just returned about 3 days ago from Norway, having taken part in the World Cup, and then from there coming on to this high altitude. She won the gold in the 5 kilometer race as well. Remains to be seen how much legs she has left in her in this 10 kilometer competition, but it's early days, more laps to go, and the proof of the pudding, of course, is when you cross that finish line at the end of the race. Tarang of ITBP, determined, wanting, desiring that finish line. We were talking about the altitude change that Bhavani has to get used to. Gulmarg, of course, at around 8,700 feet above sea level. And of course, phase 1 and phase 2, where the alpine is taking place, it's even higher. And you need to really manage your cardio. Yesterday, when I was talking to Bhavani as well, I could feel that she was, searching for some air. She was talking to me, and then, of course, Nordic skiing is a lot more demanding, and the 10 kilometer race, of course, way more demanding than the contest that she experienced yesterday. This beautiful white carpet welcoming these skiers as they climb uphill. Gulmarg, the name literally translates into meadow of flowers, and springtime, this place is beauty to behold. Coming from the language of Urdu, Gulmarg is a nature lover's paradise with its lush green meadows, and this golf course, of course, in the summer months, a representation of that. And then alongside that, you have the snow-capped mountains, as you can watch these beautiful pictures of this wonderful city. Anjana Devi, Tarang there, having started off proceedings in the absence of the two Himachal skiers. And she will carry that weight of being the pace setter. Sapna of ITBB coming down the slope into the turn, slowly and steadily drifting left as she'll transfer weight onto that left foot. About 23 minutes since we first started. And Pooja Bhatt was about the 5th or 6th to go, so she's been skiing for perhaps around 18 or 19 minutes, and this is when the first bouts of fatigue will start to kick in. Two skiers bunched together. Oh, beautiful pictures there, giving you a perspective. And as we approach the end of the second lap, let's quickly take a look at the timings that we captured at the end of the first lap. So the first lap, Kusum Rana, Selma and Anjana Devi were leading up front, followed by Bhavani, Sapna and Pooja. And we will be keeping a close eye at the timings post lap 2. And this race is going to get interesting. Slow and steady wins the race. When we talk about Nordic skiing 10K, it's slow and steady, but also maintaining the pace, especially when you have international class talent here. This is going to be exciting. Bhavani will look to make up some time. Remains to be seen whether she makes up that time in lap 2 or she chooses to do that a little later in this race. Kusum Rana, yet another strong skier, and she's crossed the finish line now. Kusum was leading at the end of lap 1. It remains to be seen whether she can hold on to that lead in lap 2 as well. Women's 10K, Nordic skiing. What a race we're witnessing. Anjana Devi of ITPP. She was the second off the blocks. And very soon she had overtaken Tarang. Pouring snow, challenging these skiers. Once again coasting. Sejal Patel there, and followed by Tarang. Sejal had an exhausting day in yesterday's 5K, but sometimes on the second day you acclimatize better as well, especially to the higher altitude, and sometimes the course also makes a difference. The fact that today we have some loose snow, some powder available to us, that makes a huge difference, because yesterday the surface was fairly icy. But today, thanks to the fresh snow that we've had overnight and today, there is an opportunity for an upset. Approaching the half-hour mark of skiing. Selma Soreng, definitely one of the medal contenders in my eyes. ITBP's Selma Soreng had that slope available to her, but sometimes such is your state of exhaustion that you just don't have the arm strength to use it. And the pouring snow or the pouring rain sometimes decides that. And the snow is coming down really heavy. Kusumrana working her way uphill. Now you can see both these skiers using those double angles, double-handed push. And then once you make it up to the hill, you try and use that few seconds of rest that you can get as you come downhill. Of course, we are to the second segment of winter in Gulmarg, and in winter, Gulmarg just absolutely transforms into this winter wonderland that you can see with snow-covered slopes and frozen lakes. The frozen lakes great for ice skating, and the slopes great for skiing. And one of those popular destinations internationally as well, where skiers from across the globe want to come and hit these slopes at Gulmarg. And amongst the destinations available to you, of course, Gulmarg, great for some of the cheapest heli skiing action that you can get. Heli skiing is all about jumping off the helicopter onto the slopes directly and then fighting your way down. And in winter as well, the region receives some serious heavy snowfall. And off late, we've also started seeing, along with skiing, a lot of snowboarding action as well, with the infrastructure developing as well, thanks to the Khelo India University, and Khelo India Winter Games, in fact. Kusumrana of ITBP is more skiers make it past the finish line, completing lap 2. We will get a better understanding once we have a few lap times available to us, and probably once we get 16 or 17 participants done, I think the lap times will really make sense. And if you're wondering why I'm saying that, is because we have a sole representative from Karnataka, Bhavani Tekra, and she's a hot favorite to take the gold. And she is number 12, I believe, on the start list. Of course, her bib number is 107, and with that bib, when that bib number crosses the start finish line, you start getting a better perspective on the best times that are available to you. So watch out for more, as right now we have Kusumrana, the leader, up front on your screens. What a race she's having. ITBP's Kusumrana. Tarang and Pooja Bhatt battling the conditions as they approach the marker for the next turn. The town of Gulmarg also has a rich and varied history, and one of the most highest human habitations, along with, of course, Leh Ladakh. The region historically was always an important center for trade and commerce during the ancient times, with merchants and travelers passing through this area. Many feel that it was in fact part of an alternate Silk Route as well. In the 16th century, Gulmarg was also a popular resort town for the emperors in Delhi to visit and escape the heat that Delhi would have. Gulmarg, known for the famous Gulmarg gondola built by the emperors in the 16th century. And of course, as time went by in the British colonial era, Gulmarg became an important popular hill station for British officers as well. And right now, it's a tourist destination that everyone desires to be, especially on the weeks when you have such brilliant snowfall. Right now, it's a destination for some of the best skiers and athletes from across the country as part of the Khelo India Winter Games. What a set of competitions we've been having so far in the Alpine yesterday, and of course in the Nordic 5K and 10K yesterday as well. Today, right now, it's all about the 10K Nordic skiing for women. Pooja Bhatt there on your screens, followed by Tarang behind her. A good job done by Pooja Bhatt as well. Clearly tells you that she's ahead of 80% of the other skiers. And at the end of lap 2, the leader is still the same. We have Kusum Rana and Selma Soreng in the second position. And this is the midway point. Kusum, Selma and Pooja Bhatt. And then of course we had Anjana, Sapna and Bhavani bringing up the next three. So we need some movement from Bhavani. She has about 20 seconds to make up. Can she make it up in lap 3 and lap 4? But what a race by Kusum, leading from the front. She took the lead in the first lap itself and then maintaining that lead in the second lap too. This 10-kilometer run in the Nordic skiing discipline becomes an extension of what you witness in the 5-kilometer runs, especially at the domestic level, because you have the same skiers with similar techniques on the same course, of course. And it is all about the lung capacity that you've built, your stamina, your preparation. And that's all combined with the performance on the day, how you're feeling when you wake up, and the processes and the plans that you set for yourself. As we take a look at that route map again, and that's the slope we're talking about. You get into that slope, find your way into a couple of those bends, and then slowly take that left and make it onto the start and finish straight. 9 and 10 in action right now. And the important number to watch there is 10, because that is Selma Soreng overtaking Tarang, lapping her in fact. So Kusum Rana having lapped Tarang, and now Selma Soreng lapping Tarang as well. These are the two skiers who started a little later, number 57 and number 2 from Himachal. Stomping her way through Hiral of CRPF. Look at the determination on her face. You can see it right there. Encouraged there by the crowd. Hiral slowly and steadily making it to the top of the hill. Then she'll have a slight breather, a good 10 seconds, 15-second breather as she approaches the downward slope. So at the end of lap 2, we have Kusum Rana, Selma Soreng and Pooja Bhatt. And then of course you have next 3 as well, Anjana Devi, Sapna and Bhavani. And the second 3 will be hoping that over the next two laps they can challenge the first three. Right now it's been a Kusamrana story at the 10K Nordic skiing discipline. Beautiful pictures there with the buildings in the background. Sejal Patel all on her own, slowly and steadily, of CRPF making her way across the snow. She had a tough race yesterday in the 5 kilometer race, but the 10 kilometer still consistent, approaching that same distance, in fact, that she had clocked yesterday. Can she double it? Will she have enough in the tank to complete this race? Hero of CRPF on our screens. That's the slope as we approach this segment, that long chicane, and it moves into that start and finish straight. And the moment the skiers take that left, they will be on to that start finish straight, getting really close to where we guys are standing. So from the corner of my eye, I can see these two skiers getting past the start finish line. And if you can see those tents on your right, that's where we guys are perched. And the drone, of course, giving you these pictures. And on the right side of your screen, you can see the camera placed as well. So extreme conditions, that's what we guys are dealing with. And this crew from Doordarshan enjoying bringing these pictures to you from the beautiful golf course in Gulmarg, Jammu and Kashmir. Nordic skiing action in the women's 10K. Battling hardship, and there you can see the spectator encouraging her, telling her that she can do better, she can do more. Stay gutsy, fight strong. Sejal Patel of CRPF, encouraged by those around her to reach the top of the slope. And this is when you get that breather that we talk about. A good 10-second breather as you slowly make your way down. Selma Soreng, just resting those arms instead of tucking those elbows in. Number 2 on the leaderboard at the end of 2 laps, going really strong. Oh, nice beautiful scenes there as she slowly and steadily makes the curve. Encouraging her to push through, use those double arms, because the surface is powdery and the amount of snow coming down means that the Nordic skis need to cut through, need to cut through. There has to be some amount of edge, slight edge on these skis. And in this weather, those edges make a huge difference because that's what helps you push onto the powder, build some momentum. Hero slowly and steadily making it to the start and finish point. There you can see some acknowledgement as she completes lap 2. The leaders, of course, will be approaching the completion of lap 3. Right now, the back markers on your screens: Anjana Devi, Hiral Tarang, ITPP's Anjana Devi. And now at the end of lap 3 completion, interesting to see some of these times. Selma Sorenk in the first position. There is Kusum Rana in the second one. Anjana Devi in the third. Pooja Bhatt in the fourth.
ग्राफिक्स ये लैप टाइमिंग है ये लैप का टाइमिंग है टोटल का नहीं है हाँ हाँ नहीं मैं बस लास्ट में कंफ्यूज मत हो जाना इससे
Strong lap on lap 3 by Selma Soreng. Of course, right now, Anjana Devi on your screens, fighting the fight just outside the contention. Of course, Kusum Rana now fading a little bit after the first and the second laps where she was dominating. It's been a Selma story in lap 3. Can they maintain the same times? Of course, when you go too hard, too strong in lap 1 and lap 2, you really get tested whether you have the fuel in your tank to succeed in lap 3 and lap 4. Ragni Negi. And that's Selma Soreng having done a fantastic lap 3. She'll be looking to build through that momentum, carry that forward into lap 4, the last and the final lap. So this is the lap 3, the best lap done by Selma Soreng. Kusum Rana not too far away after the first 2 laps were her laps. This one a little slower, allowing Selma to come in. Anjana Devi with a brilliant performance as well, right throughout this race, with a beautiful time in lap 3, 13 minutes and 9 seconds. Bhavani taking her fading a bit, but consistent nonetheless. She's been around the 13:42 mark right throughout the first 3 laps. Can she make up this time in lap 4? That's going to be the question. Otherwise, we are going to have a new gold medalist in Nordic 10K skiing. So far, we've had 1 medal in the women's division, and that's gone to Bhavani. But in lap 2 and lap 3, the story has changed slightly between the 2 laps. And in lap 4, the do or die lap, that's when the decisions will be made. The techniques that you use, the strategy that you plan, the tactics that come into play. When do you accelerate? When do you slow down? How much do you trust yourself? How much do you believe your compatriots will fade away? Beautiful views, the clouds engulfing the mountains all around as Sapna of ITBP battles the falling snow. Approaching the marker for that left turn. Ragni Negi. The beautiful perspective of this overall course as Ragni strides through. We've been talking so much about Gulmarg, enjoying Gulmarg over the last 2 days that we've been here. Just the wonderful people that we've met, the hospitality at the places that we guys are staying at, and of course the conditions here today improving with this light snow. Best conditions possible for Nordic skiing. Beautiful perspective of this wonderful town. Right on the top, Sapna of ITBP. Drone shots bringing out the true beauty and the perspective of this course, nestled between these hills. The birdies and the tees, the tee-offs, the drives, the bunkers, making way for some fantastic Nordic skiing action. This is once again a confirmation of the lap 3 times. Selma Sureng with the best lap, followed by Kusum Rana and Anjana Devi.
आप दे रहे तो 1 और 2 कंपेयर कर सकते हैं, 1 2 3 दे सकते हो क्या साथ में? नहीं, लास्ट तो आएगा, 1 2 3 साथ में दे सकते हैं क्या? क्या राइट चाहिए आपको? नहीं नहीं,
Difficult conditions for the skiers. And she will take a moment to get up. Approaching Hiril there in the foreground. Committed, head down, focused, determined. She has that challenge in front of her and she is committed to complete. And you can see these two different kinds of poles. You have the neon poles and these ones which are dark and black. The neon ones that you can see, the fluorescent orange, these ones tend to be the fiber poles and a little lighter than the steel or the aluminum poles that you will get. And of course, over 10 kilometers, even a few 100 grams would make a huge difference to these skiers. But of course, there is a compromise, a lot more brittle, these poles, and can easily snap with the slightest of pressure. So you need to use them wisely, leverage them right, whereas of course the steel poles are a lot more forgiving. Kiran on your screens, battling the conditions. Difficult conditions for the skiers, and that's the challenge that they are facing. They've already seen a couple of dropouts. As we are approaching an hour of skiing in these conditions, can you imagine it? Standing outside in these conditions is a task in itself. But to be skiing in competition in this weather, as the snow comes down heavy, Selma Soreng completing lap 4 there on your screens, and we will wait for the final time for the result. This is the last rotation for the leaders, especially. Watch closely. Number 7, Kusum Rana. Selma Soreng, number 10. Anjana Devi, number 5 as well, has had a great race. And of course, perhaps with still an outside chance, Bhavani Tekara Manjula. Pooja Bhatt had a good race as well. So those are the times that will be in consideration. Absolutely exhausted, Pooja Bhatt just crossing the finish line and just crashing onto the floor. Exhausted, drained, not just physically but also mentally, what it takes these conditions out of the skiers. An absolute testament to their spirit, to the heart that they have shown today. And she wraps up. Sapna of ITBP still going strong. Sejal Patel.
ये गलत है यार, ये हटाओ, ये गलत है, हटाओ 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 हटाओ, गलत है। पहले का टाइमिंग देखो, पूजा लिखा हुआ है, 13 मिनट लिखा है।
Sejal Patel, followed by number 11 Kiran, still on the course, still approaching this finish line. And beautiful picture there, a perspective that you get. You know what your destination is. And there we have the confirmation so far of the final times that have been clocked in. Kusum Rana so far leading 49.36 seconds. The Selma Soreng with 50 minutes. Anjana Devi 3, Pooja Bhatt 4, Tarang with 5. Remains to be seen what the scoreline will be, or the timings will be, as we come to the second set of the skiers. You will have Sejal, you will have Renu Danu, Bhavani Tekra, of course, Geeta Devi, Bhavna. Down the slope they come. Business end of the 10K race. Who is it going to be? What is the time that is going to get you that gold medal? That sense of victory, that moment when you are going to clinch that brightest of medals. Slowly and steadily making their way through across that finish line. And the challenge of Nordic skiing is when you come across that finish line, you don't really know how well you've done, because you know the time that you have set for yourself, perhaps, especially if you're wearing an instrument that's clocking your time, which you don't really know how well your compatriots have done and have you beaten that time or not. So, to a large extent, it's a race, it's a fight against yourself. Still fighting strong, Sejal Patel of CRPF. There we have the final times so far that we have received as Kusum Rana 49, the only skier so far who has broken that 50-minute marker. The Selma Soreng right behind her. So right now we have in gold medal position Kusum, silver, Selma, and Anjana bringing up the bronze. Is there a challenge still yet to come? Is there a time that is going to challenge or push out a skier from that top three? We are approaching that 58-minute mark. I think once we get past the hour and 10 minutes, then you can be sure that the scoreline that you have is not too different. Sejal Patel. Down the slope, getting some rest, determined to finish. Sejal Patel of CRPF on those Fisher skis, using those fiber skis as well. Another 6 or 7 minutes to go as she finds her way around the left turn and approaches the start finish line. Sejal Patel. An hour and 21 seconds of action that we have seen. So we're waiting for some official confirmations on who is going to be taking the gold. In lap 1, it was all about Kusumbrana. Lap 2 was about Kusumbrana as well. But in lap 3, Selma Sarang of ITBP had a brilliant race. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Who is it going to be? There you can see 57 on your screens. Bhavani Tekta. And you can see the snow pelting down onto the skier. Somehow, just about somehow making her way across this wonderful, beautiful golf course. Selma bringing up a closure to this particular event. Still on the turf, and I really appreciate her determination and dedication, Sejal Patel, to finish, because there were a lot more skiers there who had completed 3 laps, but they just decided to stop. And right now, Sejal, with the determination, the dedication, the desire to complete 4 laps, a true testament to sportsman spirit, to the spirit that she has within her. And I'm sure those around her will applaud that achievement. It takes courage knowing that you are behind the group, but yet committed to finish a race. And with that, we wrap up. All the participants still on the ice. And from there, we will look at the final results, the final timings as they come from the technical table. Beautiful pictures of Gulmarg as we await the results. Testament of the desire and heart that you need to show if you want to take a podium or a position when it comes to the Khelo India Games. Determination, desire, that's the narrative, that's the story. And what a day it has been for Kusum Rana, for Selma Soreng. Gold and silver to the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. What a wonderful day of action. We've seen day 2 action from Nordic skiing coming to an end. As we know of the results, Kusum Rana takes gold and Selma Soreng of ITBP takes bronze.